During my second year as a law student, contract law was one of the hardest law courses that gave me a tough time understanding. But as the semester progressed, I developed a key principle that helped me not only to read and understand the course, but also to navigate all the challenges that came with it. In today's video, I will be sharing with you all the tips and more as we delve into the introduction to the law of contracts. Hello, I'm Kingsley and welcome to King's Advocate Network, where we discuss the law and the society. Specifically, it is a channel that is dedicated towards answering all our questions as a law student. So if this is your first time of joining this channel, you are welcome. And believe me, everything we are going to talk about on this channel is towards answering your questions, helping each other to grow so that we will achieve our purpose of becoming a solid lawyer in the society. So I encourage you to stick to this channel because we are going to learn a lot. And I encourage you to subscribe to this channel as well, because henceforth you'll be receiving a video on this channel in a weekly interval that has to explain and describes the law. Remember, Lord Dennis said, God forbid that a lawyer should know all the law, but rather that a lawyer should know where to find the law. So if you want to really find the law, this channel is dedicated towards sharing knowledge as law students, and this channel will answer all your questions as concerned to any topic you will find difficult, both in law of contract, both in legal system, both in constitutional law, both torts, both criminal law, evidence, everything you could name of. As far as law is concerned, this channel will answer that very question, and collectively we will share idea and make impact on our society, because the goal here is to become a successful lawyer. The goal here is to become a successful advocate of which our society will be proud to receive tomorrow. So I encourage you to stick around, because contract law, like I said in the preamble of this video, is a very dicey subject. It's a subject that shake a building for any law student at the beginning. But when you understand contract law, you will know that contract law is the sweetest of all subjects. Like, I felt so bad because I didn't know this until when I'm done with my second year. And I'm not happy about it, because contract law is ab initio. People will feel like contract law is hard. See cases, see this. But constitutional law can humble you depending on which school you are dealing with. So that's why, but we often portray contract man as the bad guy. But believe me, if you are following this lecture video, if you'll be following this channel, you are going to know everything that has to do with it. I will give you tips on to pass this course. Yes, what are that tips as a legal person watching this video to make your A? And just a quick reminder as we proceed on this video that this video is not our first video on law of contract. We have already had an introduction video to law of contract. So today is a segment section and is a continuation of that very video. That very video led us to the definition of contract. And this today video is basically geared towards giving you the tips you have to know as a law student in order to navigate through your contract so as to make your A. So don't expect us to define contract and say the various elements of contract on this very video. What we are focused here is what are those tips that you need to know? What are those relevant things that can help you to navigate through this contract to make your A? And as you proceed to follow this channel, you are going to subsequently be seeing more of my tips on how to make sure you pass this very contract. So number one on my C is that you must understand the principle. Tries to understand the principle. What do I mean here by principle? Principle means that every rule in contract has a principle governing it. For instance, when you say that unilateral contract is a valid contract, of course, you may not have heard of unilateral contract. It's a type of contract. You can check my playlist session to see if this video is very there, depending on the time you are watching this video. So you can still go there and refresh your memory or see what unilateral contract means. So unilateral contract, in that very case, the case that established that very principle is Kalili vs. Carbolic Smoke Ball Company. What does that case say? That case say that a contract can be made between a person and the whole world. Of course, all the definition we saw, all of them we are saying that contract is an agreement between two parties. You understand? That contract is an agreement between two or more parties. But this one, they are saying that the contract can be unilateral between one person and unknown person. Which principle established this thing? That is case of Kalile vs. Mokpo. So understanding the principle means that, and I want to let you know that contract, I have said this again, contract is not hard, but knowing the principle is what makes it hard. So every rule in contract has exception. If you talk about privity of contract, there are about 6 exceptions to the privity of contracts. If you talk about any rule, that's a principle. So principle here means that every rule have a particular, every contract has a particular principle that governs it. And principle that governs it, like I pointed out here earlier on, is case law. So it's case law that governs it. And you cannot write on anything without understanding the principle. Like for a principle now of unilateral contract is that a contract can be made to the whole world. That is the principle. A principle of consideration or principle of a valid contract is that there must be offer, there must be acceptance. When you go to consideration as its own element, the past consideration is not considered as a valid consideration in law. What is past consideration? For you to find out, go to my playlist that is dedicated to the video on past consideration. That video, depending on the time you are watching it, once will be posted on this very channel if it's not there yet. So that's why I'm telling you that all of them has a principle. So that is what I mean. If you want to make it big in this very course, you must know the principle. Try to understand the principle of that contract law. And of course, you cannot understand this principle from the air. You will understand this principle by doing a research work, because let me tell you, you see, lecturers, they don't care about the student. Lecturers don't have time to sit down with you like this to be discussing with you what the meaning of contract is. In fact, some of them will be like, before you even the class rep, give me the attendance. In fact, once they come, you'll be like, the class rep, where is the attendance list? I think we have called it a day for today's lecture. You'll be like, oh God, when the lecture starts. In fact, sometimes you'll be ruling attendance list and they are done with the lecture. So tell me how you are going to know the principle of contract when a lecturer comes few times in a semester. So what you are going to do is develop a source. Find where to source your knowledge. Find where to drip from so that you will know the because principle here means understanding the particular one. If you are talking about consideration, what do you think consideration is all about? Consideration is not about please consider me. No, that is not what it means in law. How do you know that the principle of consideration is by watching a video? And remember, God forbid that the lawyer should know the law, but rather he should know where to find the law. It's my favorite quote, because God forbid that you will know the law. No, you will not know the law, but you should know where to find what you need at any time. And there is no place to find it than following a particular. This channel is for you, of course. You can always check videos here to help you to understand the principle. It might not be this channel. You can choose other channel. There are many channels talking something like this. You can follow them if you can relate well with them. Everything we want is good result. If you find a particular person that you can be following up, you subscribe to that channel, so you'll be seeing their videos, then you'll be learning. Apart from visual aid of learning, there is also your phone is there. Your phone is not just meant for WhatsApp, so you can just use it and learn from your own, because don't wait on lecturer. The only dividends you get when you read ahead is that when lecturer begins to teach, you will then flow immediately. But if you are not ready, depending on what they will tell you, you will not tell you that you will flow. After teaching, they will drag you back to square one, because most of the time, depending on your own, if you are lucky enough, you will have a good person that will explain to you to understand. But I doubt if anybody will calm down, take hours to spend to you meaning of contract. It's not obtainable in tertiary institution. So I encourage you to find a place to source your knowledge, deeply rooted. Find a particular, it could be audio-visual like this, audio-visual, reading, anyway. Find a place to source your knowledge. Very important. Remember, it's a tips that will help you to make A on this course. Then, secondly, knowing case authorities. Knowing case authorities, very important. Like I said, common law, contract is as like this. All of them is made together. And up to today, there has not been a workable statute that provides a holistic framework that governs contract. So it's the authority. Imagine you now writing exam without valid authority. Of course, you have seen it now in textbook of law of contract. It's filled with cases. And to say the truth, this textbook, I will not mention a particular textbook here in order to not to discredit the author in a video like this, but most of the contract law textbook, they didn't do justice to that very textbook. In fact, I don't even know, like they wrote the textbook as if to say it is meant for those who are ready to go to law school, those who have totally graduated and now going to their final ceremony at the bar, like court to bar. That is why I see the textbook, because it's as a beginner who is just in 100 level, 200 level, second year, third year. How do you think that that person can appreciate that very test? So that's why I encourage you to source your knowledge elsewhere, so that when you will be reading that textbook, you will be flowing with it. And case authority is very important. You must know case authorities. You must know case authorities. So knowing case authorities is very important. And how do you know case authority? It is by reading that very case. Reading cases here doesn't mean that you have to read the whole cases. You have to know all the cases. No, you mustn't know all the cases, because if you try to know all the cases, you will run mad. Less, your mother and family member will just come with chain. Especially if you want to know all the cases in contract, who born you? You will run mad. You will just grow mad. So, but you have to know. I don't know if you have know what they call locus classicus. Locus classicus means a particular case which you must mention in every field of contract. Not only field of contract, all law. For instance, when you talk about unilateral contract or contract made to the whole world, Kalili vs. Smokeball is a locus classicus. When you talk about the contractual capacity of a child, or who is a valid age of a child under the law of contract, you talk about Labidja vs. Abek, an ancient case or Nigerian ancient case. When you talk about equity and how to do with equity have stepped to mitigate the harshness of common law and the merging of equity, you talk about everything and everything. When you talk about consideration as being a necessary requisite for contract to come into existence, you talk about Kure and Misa. These are the cases. These are the cases you must know. So these are the cases you have to know that are very fundamental to the understanding of that particular. So here is the tips. Don't try to know all the cases, like I say. Try to pick those ones that are relevant to you. Try to pick those ones that you need to pass your exam. When you have graduated and you need something like that to prepare your case to go before the court, you can pick up your phone, research it and put it here and go to the court and collect your money. That is it. So you must pick the one that concerns, and not say because I say pick the one that concerns you pick only one case, or you go to the you only pick one case in the whole contract law, or you pick one case in a particular law of contract field of topic. No. At least have some reasonable number of cases. That reasonability depends on you. You are the one to know the amount that is reasonable to pass your exam, depending on your lecturer in consideration. So very important. No cases. Very important. Another 10 tips I want to give you is that try to make a personal note. Please do me a favor. I'm begging you. Try to make a personal note. Don't say you will read from textbook. Even if you do it for other course, don't do it for a lot of content, because the textbook I have seen, to the best of my knowledge, it didn't do justice to it. They explain it in such a complex term that it will not be understandable. So unless you have the ability to shake in your head, or you are a great guy, you can appreciate it, good and fine. But I advise you make note. Apart from the textbook being too complex, there is important dividends that comes from making note. But one of it is that it will help you to break down anything in your own words. In your own words matter, because if you just cram the textbook, if you go to hall, if you have amnesia, God forbid, but that day you will not eat again when you after that exam, because you'll be like Professor Sege. Law of contract can be defined as until they hear submit your paper. That is when you will know that there is hellfire somewhere in the hall, in the examination hall. So try to break it down your own way, so that if you forget, if you know the principle, that's why I say know the principle as first tips. If you know the principle that in consideration they say that as a, okay, which example will I give that could be related? Let me use that in another contract. If you know that if the lecturer have asked you a problematic question that has to do with something that is related to making a contract to the whole world, types of contract, you know that in unilateral contract can be made to the whole world, not only to a party, and it is binding based on the principle established in case of Khalid vs. Carbolic smoke ball. Simple. Even if you don't remember the case, because you know the principle, you say in a decided case. Yes, in a decided case, you can use it whenever you forgot any authority, or you can say in a decided case. But if you don't know the principle, yes, now you have forgotten the principle. So in a decided, your 10 to Israel, that is what it should be, because you don't even know where to start. And also, if you know the principle, Then also try as much as you can to remember cases, and that will lead me to another tips not to forget cases. That is what you should do so that you will not forget cases. Number one advice on that is consistency. Please, my friend, consistency is the only way you can remember case. Try to read early. Don't wait until the day to exam. You have to develop an approach. In fact, some of my course mates back then have billboard on their room. When they will wake up, the board will be facing them. They write a particular case there every single day. I didn't do it. What I did is that, in fact, I have my notes which I started making from year one. As you can see, the book is still looking fresh. It was where I itemize, or if I open this book, all the authority is there. Everything I have come across, I will write it. Any case I come across that interests me, I will write it. I will put it near my bed. Whenever I wake up, I will go through it briefly every day. If I'm to sleep, depending on the time I have. If I have immediate lecture and I woke up, of course I will not read. Another point I'm going to give you at this point, in fact, for me, this is the most important of them all. Like, it is really very important as far as your success as a law student in contract law is concerned. Avoid what I call pressure reading. My dear, my beloved friend in this journey, avoid pressure reading. There is nothing that can destroy you and destroy your exam than pressure reading. In fact, it is better not to read at all than to engage yourself in pressure reading. What do I mean? Pressure reading is that kind of reading that happens, that intense reading that happens a day to the exam, or 2 days to the exam, 3 days to the exam, 1 week to the exam, depending on how you schedule your time. That is what I call pressure reading. That kind of reading will not favor you. That kind of reading will contribute more to emotional stress and everything you will pass through as a law student during the exam. So what I advise you to do is to start early. Start early. Try to make hay while the sun still shines. Don't wait. I have said it again. I think I pointed this out while I was trying to give, but I decided to give it a full ground as a tip to you so that it will sink inside you. Don't read in pressure. Begin early in order to stop early. But this does not mean that during the exam you should just go and lie down in your bed and begin to look around the ceiling in your hostel. No, you have to still read during the exam. Yes, in fact, it's in exam that is necessary that you also try to read. But the reading I'm talking about now is you are reading during the exam period, not as somebody who have not seen his or her book before. You are reading in this case as a revision. That is what I mean. I'm not saying that during the exam you should go and lie down to your tent, or Israel, or be watching the ceiling of your hostel, or be cruising. No, you will fail. The only thing I am saying is that during the exam, you are going to be reading as somebody who has been reading before, as somebody who is not just seeing the definition of Professor Drayton for the first time. You should have known that, so that during the exam, it will be as if to say you are browsing. You are just going through it. Everything is already within you, but you are refreshing it. You are removing the dust, preparing yourself to catch that paper, to catch that script and finish everything. That is what I mean. You have to start early. Make sure that before the exam you have covered all topics. That if you are reading it during the exam era, it will be that you are reading it for revision purpose. Because trust me, if you try to engage yourself in pressure reading, you are going to break down. Break down here doesn't mean just physical stress. You are going to suffer a kind of amnesia in hell. I have experienced that before. That's why I give it as advice, because I think I could remember during my second semester in year 2, I encountered that difficult, especially, and it was this very cost law of contract. I went to war that I forgot everything as regard to cases. Imagine writing contract law exam without cases. What will you write? So the thing that caused this, or what causes this very act of forgetting everything, is engaging yourself intensely. You see a student, he or she have exam tomorrow morning by 8 or 9. The person will not sleep throughout the night. If it favors you, fine. But me, it doesn't favor me. If I try not to sleep when I have exam tomorrow, it means I'm not going to write anything for that exam. Like if any day I try that, I have had an encounter, such encounter, and I have said that even if I have not read anything, I'm not going to stay awake, because it will do me more harm than good. If you are that kind of person that has the same nature with mine, that if I didn't sleep, have a good night's sleep, I will not be able to write anything tomorrow, then maintain it. Try to read early, so that when the exam period reach, those who can do it, those who are carry a bit to shake a hand, they can read throughout the night. In fact, some people will not sleep in 1 week during the exam period because they are doing what? Reading. They have not opened their book before, and now they are trying to cover up. it worked for some people. All these things is fashion it in a way that is relate to you. That is the tips I have for you. And then I want you to know that the law of contracts has just got started. We still have many things to cover. We still have many things to talk about on law of contract. I encourage you to subscribe to this channel so that you'll be able to receive another video. In our next video, we are going to discuss the element of contract. We are going to consider the various elements, things that can make up a contract. We are also going to see the importance of contract, as well as the relevant cases that you have to know when you are talking about the various elements of contract. We have just got started, so I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Then, if you have not watched that my first video, click the link above. Yes, click that video on your screen now, or click that video. It will lead you, because that was our introduction part. Today was tips. That video dealt with definitions. That video provided 5 definitions of law of contract for you. Go and check that very video, and I will see you in my next video.